Very much in the news even before the cancer diagnosis was announced on Sunday. That's because of a new book by CNN's Jake Tapper.
This was already going to be a tough week, and this makes it much harder. And that is a reference to the fact that our colleague, Jake Tapper, and Alex Thompson have a book that's set to publish on Tuesday.
This very tough news, this very challenging news. And at the same time, the backdrop of our colleague Jake Tapper's book with Alex Thompson coming out this week.
It's so hard. It's such a difficult time, so unfathomable in terms of the pain his family must be feeling. And yet, if you act now and you use the code / tap that book, you will obviously, this 20% off offer is not a... You actually frame this difficult news as perhaps even more of a reason to buy this book.
The timing of former President Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis is certainly dramatic, coming on the eve of a blockbuster new book about his health and his time in the White House. Some observers will say that the reporting in the book is even more important now.
Yet nobody's saying that. No observers will say it's more important now. Some observers might think, do these CNN people work on commission?
I mean, it did make me laugh, but it's really actually sad. The other day, the thumbnails on CNN, on the YouTube channel that I was looking at, were literally wall-to-wall coverage of Joe Biden's alleged cognitive decline and his cancer diagnosis in the midst of the most corrupt criminal grift going on in the Oval Office in American history. I mean, what Donald Trump and his regime are doing makes Richard Nixon look like a freaking Boy Scout. And what gets me is that not only is Trump the most evil and corrupt president that we've ever had, but he's clearly in cognitive decline. It is so obvious. Just listen to him. He makes no sense. He speaks gibberish. It's just word salad at all times. He doesn't know what groceries are.
See this today. I said, we're going to try and get groceries down, right? An old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term.
He makes absolutely zero sense on any given day. Just read the transcripts. They're nonsensical. He can't even open a bloody medal box at a medal ceremony. Take a look at this.
So... you want to help us out? You're the one that made it.
He walks into marble columns where weirdo Mike Johnson has to turn him around. And, why aren't these the headlines, huh? Journalists whom I normally respect, like Margaret Brennan at Face the Nation, Katie Couric, all jumped aboard this Tapper train wreck. And here's the thing. The book, which I refuse to read, is largely based on hearsay from unnamed sources. And some of the main players that Tapper did name, like former DNC chair Jamie Harrison and Biden National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, have publicly refuted Tapper's claims about them in his book. Here's what Jamie Harrison put out on X. Folks, I have said it before and I will say it again. I don't need to read the book per the random Axios guy. Everyone's like, who the hell is this Axios guy that co-wrote the book with Jake Tapper? I was there. This didn't happen. So please stop using my image or my name as evidence for your claims about President Biden. And then here is Jake Sullivan responding to Tapper's allegations at a recent political summit.
Never performed well is that it was that he couldn't do it all the time, that he was only able to function well for a few hours in the day, that he would have moments of forgetfulness, there's actually an excerpt in the book where it says he forgot your name in December 2022. He called you Steve a couple of times. Did that happen?
I do not recall that ever happening. And I will tell you, Joe Biden knows my name. He knows my name like I talk to him even now. So I was surprised to read that in the book. But what I will more generally say is I had to wake the president up in the middle of the night when there were crises. I had to go into him at various points when unexpected things happened. And surely plenty of unexpected things happened during the time that he was in office and that I was in the seat. I did that over the course of the 4 years, and I saw him operating, decision-making, executing as commander-in-chief throughout that time.
And as for the story that's been making the rounds about President Biden not recognizing George Clooney at that LA fundraiser, didn't happen, according to the Harris Walls finance chair, Rufus Gifford, who was literally in the room, like standing right there when this story did not happen.
The famous George Clooney fundraiser?
I was, and I was one of the 8 people in the room when this infamous moment happened.
So do you think it's in the room? Do you think it's true that he didn't recognize George Clooney?
No, is the answer to the question. And and not only that, it's like an absurd thing. And then President Obama and President Biden, who walked in together.
Right. So
what happens here is this: like George and Julia were standing in front. I was literally right there. George and Julia standing right in front of the curtains that get ready to just like take photos that they always do, because as the presidents walk in, and then the advance guy comes in and says to President Biden and President Obama, President Biden, see George Clooney and Julia Roberts. And, it was, I will say this, when I read this in the book, I was like, this did never happen.
And in new reporting from Breaker, the outlet reports that this book is based partly on Jake Tapper's vengeance against the Biden family. According to Breaker, they say that Hunter Biden told them that Jake Tapper repeatedly reached out to the Bidens when Beau Biden was dying of brain cancer to get an exclusive. And at one point, when Tapper was calling Hunter from an unknown number because Hunter Biden was not picking up Jake Tapper's calls, Hunter told Tapper to basically go fuck himself. Understandable at such a traumatic and awful time. Now, Jake Tapper denies that this happened, but there were other people who told Breaker that they knew that this story happened, that Hunter Biden was furious about it and was so upset that somebody was doing this to his family during such a time of trauma. And then later, when Joe Biden actually became president, Jake Tapper was reportedly apoplectic, that the president's staff or perhaps himself chose Aaron Burnett from CNN as one of the anchors for an off-the-record briefing with President Biden before the State of the Union address instead of him, and that he was raging, calling the White House, saying, "I'm Jake Tapper, and this is my network." He did not deny any of those stories, just out of control egomania and a way for him to cash in by slamming a good man. And that's what he's done by writing this disgusting book. Look, we've been listening to the legacy media slam President Biden for years now. It is shameful and disgusting. I watch the New York Times, just the corporate media has just consistently done this over and over again. It was gross when he was in the White House, when the press corps was yelling at him and disrespecting him, when he was president of the United States. But it's truly, in my opinion, unforgivable now because we have a monster in power. We have a cognitively diminished psychopath in power, and the press corps is failing to do their job. There's a reason that Jake Tapper won't write a book about Donald Trump. That's because he's afraid to. He's scared to. The fourth estate has failed us miserably, terribly. The White House press corps is afraid of Donald Trump. They're afraid of him. And they're afraid of what? I don't even know if she's 28 years old yet. Caroline Leavitt. This is absurd. They are enabling a growing dictatorship here in America. So they need to take responsibility and do their effing jobs. Joe Biden was a terrific president. He got us out of the disaster, the nosedive that Donald Trump left us in the first term. Was he infallible? No. But there's no way that he was suffering from Alzheimer's dementia. And even now, I do not believe that that is the case. I've listened to him in a recent interview on The View. I've seen him when he was over in Rome. Obviously, I'm not there in his inner circle to make a diagnosis. But, the man has an aggressive cancer diagnosis. And as a nation, I believe what we should be doing is thanking him for his service and his grace and leaving his family the fuck alone while they gather around him at this time. And we should be offering our support and our prayers for the best medical treatment and for his healing. You know, and by the way, Americans outside of the